Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, in episode 193, I'm very happy to introduce you to Ronald Kinsella. Ron and his brother Philip were my guests on the Aliens and Angels podcast, the October 6th episode, where we discussed their ET abduction experiences and the implications for the future of humankind. So please do check out this interesting interview. Ronald Kinsella is an author and artist. As an author, he has recently completed a science fiction novella aimed at adults and is based on an ugly future. And as an artist, Ronald is creating all of his own illustrations for his novella before he has it published. Whoops, correction. He actually recently did have it published, so it's ready to go. He also recently rekindled his passion for building his own models using the very latest resin technology, along with sculpting software. He aims to create large representations of his imagination, highlighting monsters, robots, and spaceships. All of the links are below in the description box. Today, in episode 193, we will talk about all of these things along with Ronald's spiritual path. Thank you for subscribing. Leave me a comment and please do smash that like button. And for those that are interested, I have channel memberships and you can join if you like, and then you would receive my perks. So without further ado, we'll bring on Ron. Ron, hi, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How you doing?
Hello, Karen. I'm very well, thank you. And that was a smashing intro, glittering intro.
Well, I made a little mistake. I didn't realize until we came on the show that your book was actually already published. But
No,
we've
no,
got
you were right about that anyway. It's just being fixed up, so you were correct.
Okay, so we've got the links below so people can access your book and your website and see your tremendous art. So tell me, Ron, what have you been up to lately?
I've been working on, because I use for my art, I've moved on from 12 years ago. I decided to go digital because everyone was going digital. But my goodness, that was an absolute task and a half because I had to buy the software first. I saw this software called ZBrush and I fell in love with it because it gave the ability of making the illustrations look more realistic. But
Hmm.
little did I know, I started off with Sculptor or Sculptress, I think it was called. It was a free small application from the wonderful creators of ZBrush. And I tried it, it was free, and it took me ages to get the hang of it because it's a symmetry as well. When you start off with a ball of clay and you stretch it, bend it, and it's like plasticine. Literally is like plasticine. It took me 12 years to master it. So to buy the software cost me at the time then just under £1,000. But the investment was well worth every penny because from that moment on, it didn't start. There were no happy beginnings because it was trial and error. I got frustrated and frustrated because I tried to make my models more realistic, but it was time and patience. And those things paid off. And now I can create monsters and robots and spaceships. And I'm not very good at doing people. I can't do people. That's why when people see my artwork, and if they do see people, they're turned at an angle so you can't see the face. I'll get there though. I can do them comic book style, but as for realism, I just can't do it. The reason why I get away with the aliens and the monsters is because there are no comparisons with them. People can't compare
Hmm.
them to anything. Yeah, so I get away with it. And another wonderful thing about this software ZBrush is the fact that the lighting, once you've made your models, you can direct the lighting, and the lighting is everything in a picture.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
when you set it for a picture, I learned from the creator of Alien, Sir Ridley Scott, I believe he created Alien. When they produced that film all those years ago with the model alien, the rubber suit, the man in the suit, how they got away with that was lighting. They made it look
Hmm.
more realistic through the clever lighting of that prop. although it was marvelous, it was magnificently made, but it had to look real. So it was all to do with lighting. So this software encompasses all of that. It can encompass lighting, shading, painting. I can paint on it. That's how when I've rendered the model, then it can move around. It's a 3D model. Well, I've built the whole thing, and it takes longer because you have to build the whole thing up.
Mhm.
You can then angle it at certain points, which you find, a good shot, and then that's it. You set it as a painting, So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, you do incredibly good work. But I gotta ask you, where do you get the ideas from? Where do you just imagine them? They pop into your mind, or do you build them in your mind, or how do you come up with the original images?
I think one aspect is progression, and second is trial and error. Currently, right now, today I've been working on H.G. Wells' wonderful War of the Worlds paintings, and I've done one on my Facebook page of the Martians slipping out of their cylinder. There's a Victorian man to the side with his arms up. He's absolutely gobsmacked. But I'm redesigning the Martians. So I took the old model I had and I've revamped it. So I go back to him and I soften him and then add new details, and I can change the eyes, the mouth, the posture, everything. So
Mhm.
that I think is trial and error with the H.G. Wells Martians. And believe me, even working on him now, I've set it back because if you make a mistake, you can take your steps back. It's all clean and very efficient. So that's why they
Mhm.
look so perfect, because you can render them perfect by taking, if you made errors, go back and then start from that point again. So the they come from, yes, the imagination. H.G. Wells had a lot to do with that because he created them. But I think poetic license, but you just add on it. So I think
Mhm.
another example is when I was a little boy, uh, the stuff of science fiction was with me, and of course it goes against you with the UFOs, but it doesn't. It's not poetic license with them. They just came later on, and I think that's ugly in a way because that imposes on your imagination, and people think you're highly imaginative and you imagine these
Mhm.
things. But when I was a little boy, I wanted this mechanical dog. Always with me, something odd or different. I imagined him perhaps as smaller than me, my little play pal, where he could talk to you and he could read you stories and he could follow you around and you could pick him up or drop him down. Probably childlike, stands like a man, that kind of mechanical dog. And Philip and I, when we were younger, tried to build him, but of course, then children having that capability was impossible. Beer cans, of all things we used, empty beer cans, we collected and tried to pin them all together, or struck them together to build this impossible dream. I mean, my goodness, it's very laughable. But the first concept of him, because he's cute, he's got big ears and he's
Mhm.
quite cute, called Magnus. We called him Magnus the Micromut. He has never left me. So from then on, we developed and developed and developed him. So now he is much more, I would say, stylish looking.
Mhm.
Still cute, but he is based on progression, whereas other things like the Wolf of the Worlds, they're based on trial and error and poetic license. I don't know where they come from. I mean, I've done pictures of the reptilians and I've done pictures of the greys, and I gather it's rather like a feel for them.
Mhm.
Like if it
Mhm.
was certainly the reptilians, I mean, I wouldn't argue with them. Certainly, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to tango with them. Certainly not. But the feel I get, and there's something beautiful about the reptilians. I know it sounds really mad to say that, but it quite literally isn't, because children love dinosaurs. So there's a kind
Mhm.
of fascination with this reptilian kind of feel for these creatures that are reported throughout and have been reported throughout time. And I gather I have a little bit of admiration for them and a little bit of respect. I don't think they're all bad. If they were real, they wouldn't all be bad. It's like us, isn't it?
Mhm.
You have the good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, so it's a fascination. And this compulsion for these aliens and creatures has just been with me all my life.
Mhm. Mhm. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I had an interesting experience, not with the reptilians, but my extraterrestrial experiences are what I would classify as transdimensional. So they happen to me when I'm sleeping, and I can often go and participate ethereally or as astro traveling. And I was in a meeting aboard the big ship, and they had this big like a round table with with some kind of technology that created holographic images in the center, and they were showing us what reptilians looked like and the different kind of Orions and Pleiadians. Because I've never had any experience with any of those kind of extraterrestrials. Anyway, I'll try to make this short. My point is, I was really surprised when they showed me the reptilians because they were not anything like the way they are portrayed in our popular culture. They actually were very regal looking. They dressed similar to the way royalty would dress back in the 1600s with a lot of material and folded robes. And they were very regal and very actually beautiful, even though very different and definitely reptilian. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there that I think in the popular culture, we get stuck thinking that grays are all this way and reptilians are all that way. And I think that there is quite a bit of diversity. And so I really see that in your artwork because it's very unique, so well done. Some of the creatures you draw are a bit scary, really, but really, really well done. And so I wondered where they come from for you. So I think you just work on it, and then you get a feeling that you need this needs to be a bit different, and that needs to be a bit longer, and that needs to be a bit shorter, whatever, until it feels right. So it's an intuitive thing that you know when you're on the mark. Is that accurate, Ron?
Yes, that's absolutely right. And usually when I sit there, and well, the one thing with me, I'm like a dog with a bone. I won't let it go. If it is wrong, what you do, the best thing to do, and this is a piece of advice I will give, and I've learned this, if it's any kind of art like writing, drawing, narrative, acting, if it's not working, leave it. Just pause, postpone it. Don't do any
Mhm.
more. Go back to it in the morning, and you'll be able to see the errors of your ways, and you will improve on them. An
Mhm.
example is the Martian, the wonderful Martian I'm working, H.G. Wells's Martian, slipping out of his cylinder, the new one, and his face wasn't quite right. So I left it. I just left it. I went and had a cup of coffee. Uh, I went back to it and I thought, right, okay, I can see what the problem is, and you just work on it that way. So yeah, that's quite right, Karen. It's quite right. Yes, it's amazing. We you know we're quite incredible in what things we can achieve, and I
Mhm.
admire anyone who strives with any form of art, or writing, music, acting, even radio is poetic. It's entertainment. It's what we need. Is these things is what we need to express ourselves. It's to do with expression. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because I sometimes sit there and I think, why am I doing all this? I don't sell my artwork. I will tell you now, and this is not to be derogative. I've only made £30 in my life from a painting. That's all I've earned. It wasn't because I wanted to sell them. Someone wanted a piece of work, so I sold it for £30. I don't sell
Right.
my artwork. I have had an idea. There's nothing wrong with it. If you wish to, that is a wonderful thing to do because you're opening up the market. But I was thinking about perhaps sometime in the future having some of my paintings transferred to canvas. These wonderful
Mhm.
canvas companies who are wonderful. You pay a bit money, not too much, and you have them transferred onto canvas and charge a bit more when you sell them because you've got to make you've got to make a little bit of profit on them. Yeah, but that's the idea I have for the future. But yes, certainly a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I have a brother who's an artist and he transfers his art, has it transferred onto canvases, and then he touches up the canvas or embellishes it a little, or, might use black ink to highlight or define certain areas, or a bit of just a hint of glitter or something to, um, or make it look wet. I don't know how he does it, but he does
Yes.
that. So that's a great idea. So, yeah, so I'm really happy with your art. I follow you on Facebook quite closely because I never know what you're going to come out with, but it's always something super interesting. And I'm wondering, oh yeah, um, I also really want to recommend people go to your Facebook page and check out the dog. What's his name again?
Magnus the Micromut.
Magnus the Micromut. Now, I understand that you could draw a picture of him, but how do you tell? You use what I would call a 3D printer, is that right?
That's
How
right,
do you
yes.
tell the printer, um, like, do you use an AutoCAD program, or how do you tell the printer what to make? Because you make components and then you fit him together, is that right?
That's right, Karen. What it is ZBrush, which this is long before the resin printers, but it's amazing how these things are compatible because I've had ZBrush for 12 years. As I've said, it's taken me 12 years to master it through absolute tears and anguish and God
Yeah.
knows what, but I did it. They have a program on there. So when I've built my model, and I said, when you build it, or if we, let's say the dog, I built him, I've just got to finish his arms. So I haven't done his arms. He's armless. So he's got everything else apart from his arms until I sculpt them. But what you do is when the model is completely finished, you then send it to an application which cleverly transfers it to the printer. So that model in ZBrush, because it's 3D and it's fully made, the printer will understand it through the program or the programs they use, the slicing
Mhm.
programs they call them. And then you just input it into the printer, you pour resin into the printer, and then with any luck, it'll print your model, but they do take a while to print. But I've got a faster printer now, so I've got one of the wonderful Elegoo Saturn 4K. I haven't used it at all yet. It's here over there, and I will build up the courage to use it because although resin is fantastic, it's just slightly messy. That's not to degrade the printers at all because the quality is much more smoother than you have of the other conventional printers that don't use liquid.
Mhm.
They just use the reels of plastic. Yeah, so that's how it is. Because I'm using ZBrush or other applications people can use, 3D software programs, they can send their model into the printer and create them. And it's opened up a wonderful kind of market because people now are selling their models. They build them and they sell them
Mhm.
either as a file or as an actual physical model to buy. And I think this is wonderful. And it reminds me of when we were children for Christmas, we used to get those clay models, the molding things
Mhm.
you used to get. You build the clay, them in the mold, let it dry, and then you paint them. So it's incredible how we're going back. We seem to be going back, albeit technologically advanced now, but we're going back to the things we enjoyed doing as children, you know.
Mhm. Mhm. Wonderful. You know, Elon Musk in an interview recently said that it won't be very long that there will be more robots than there are people on the earth. Wouldn't it be wonderful if people like you could design the chassis or the bodies with your printers and then just get the software that kind of goes inside that, moves it and animates it? I could see that coming for you in the future. And that would
Yeah,
be really, really fun because it would be lovely to animate your friend, you know? He's
yeah.
been with you for so long. Wouldn't it be wonderful to make your childhood dream come to life?
Yes, I mean, Elon Musk, yes, he's correct. The robots, they will be a benefit to us. I've always supported technology. We need it. The trouble is, it's more than not, is abused by others. You will always have that. But
Mhm.
on the whole, these robots, the household robots as well, let's call them hopefully a housewife's dream, that will do the
Yeah, I'm
hoovering,
hoping.
that will do the hoovering, that will do the ironing, that will uh, uh, welcome guests and bring in the drinks and guard you at night. You feel safe in your beds knowing that you have a mechanical friend downstairs keeping watch over the house. They're going to be wonderful. I remembered seeing this wonderful book at school when I was 10 or 11. It was at Stockwood High School, and they had this book about the future. And this was 1980, I believe it was 1980 or 81. And they showed the robots, and they said this is going to happen in 2000. I thought, oh wow, this is so cool. We're going to have a butler who's going to, do all the chores. It's not lazy. If you got it, just use it. We're not lazy. This big misconception of being idle, yes, because we're becoming more stressful and people are having to work longer or do much more sociable things now than they ever did, they would be absolutely wonderful, these robots. But they haven't come about yet, but they're making enormous progress. And I've seen now Elon Musk, wonderful, brilliant man. I mean, they're now walking like us. They walk like us, and they're just incredible. And I welcome it. I welcome it with open arms. I believe he has an idea to send a troop of them to Mars, and that would be wonderful because they won't need feeding. They don't
Mhm.
need rest or anything. And so when he lands them there, they will be like our eyes and ears. So when they land
Mhm.
on the surface, imagine them first before he sends people, before they send the program of colonizing the Martian planet. It's ironic, isn't it? We'd be talking about H.G. Wells, the Martians. But
Mhm.
it would be great because he can send them into places where, it would be risky for people at that time to have a
Yeah.
look and to survey the planet and to collect materials and minerals. Wonderful idea. Wonderful idea.
It is. Ron, I've thought many times about how much energy and brain power, intelligence, everything goes into the industrial military complex. And if they could channel, if we could just have peace on earth and channel all of that energy into creating energy efficient everything that we use, if we could only, um, you know, we could have robots to do everything for us, but I personally would not become lazy or bored. There are so many things that I would like to do. I could develop my character, I could develop my talents, excuse me, I could do research, and I could train in areas that interest me. And really, we could become a resource based economy instead of a money-based economy. But first, we have to put away our warring ways. I don't know. What are your thoughts about all that?
I absolutely agree with you. The trouble with our world is, and I won't mention any names or politicians, we're not going to go down that road, but the trouble is it's based on control, and it's always control. You get some hopefuls that are elected, but whatever happens, it never seems to be the result we expect. Uh, if the future, I hope that when we have put aside all the differences, however or whatever means it takes to do that, and we become of one. You're right, Karen. Imagine what we could achieve if there's enough room on this planet to house everyone. There's enough
Mhm.
food to feed everyone. There's enough water, to keep everyone hydrated. It is and clothed. If we had that all over the world, imagine the harmony this would bring and the people using their talents to create the most incredible things. My goodness, we could hit upon the verge of immortality to a
Mhm.
degree. You know, progression with science and medicine. I know that we could never be immortal. That's not the way it is because even the brain it degrades even if we try to extend our lives. I wrote a piece on this in the Digital Demon, I believe, where the super rich in the future will be able to extend their lives by having this transferred into, or that transferred into a biomechanical body. But
Mhm.
perhaps the extension of another 50 years or so, I think at most. But, who knows? I mean, they might be able to, in the vast future, be able to transfer our own intelligence and our own mind into a machine that becomes
Mhm.
digital and we learn that way. Who knows? I'm never going to say no to that, because you don't know. We become a
Mhm.
super race. It would be
Mhm.
beautiful, wouldn't it? The world in harmony. I don't think that's going to happen for a very long time. The robots will be exploited, certainly for war. If they can build them to act like us, they will be abused for warfare. And there's also the horror. We have to look at the negative now. There's always the horror of your domestic robot being hacked. So he's commanded
Mhm.
to unlock your house at night or when you're away, so he lets the crooks in.
Mhm.
Or even worse, the unthinkable. This is the stuff of not so much science fiction now. It's when you're asleep. Would you sleep easy, wondering if someone's hacked him or her to go upstairs and then throttle you in your bed?
Well, they can hack the cars now. They can hack the cars, and they've I've seen some shows about that where they did a kind of one guy, Tucker Carlson, he wanted to see what it was like. He was in a car driving along and they hacked the car. They ended up taking him in a ditch. He almost got hurt because they took over his car. So if they could take over a car, they could take over a robot. So you're right. We have to grow up, I think, as humans, and we have to um, redefine our priorities and start taking responsibility. I'm always saying this. People are probably tired of hearing it, but we need to take responsibility for our health, our physical and our mental health, our spiritual health. But while we're on the topic of scary things, why don't you tell us a bit about your book? Because that's about a dystopian future, isn't it?
The science fiction one, yes.
Hmm.
That is to do with artificial intelligence, true artificial intelligence. Now, I've always argued the case we don't actually have true artificial intelligence yet, but it
Hmm.
will come. It will come. I guarantee you, we will have it. They're very clever because they're using very smart algorithms. This is what AI is what they call AI, but it's not a
Hmm.
true AI in the sentient sense. It is not a sentient being. And in a way, at the present, the reason why I think they're passing it off as this new AI, the new acronym for it, is first, it's a good selling gimmick. And secondly, if something goes wrong, you know who they're going to blame. And people will believe it. They won't blame any person, they'll just blame AI. And I think that's very unfair on the actual method in what they're trying to do. But I do believe they will develop artificial intelligence to a conscious state. My grandfather said to me something very strange. He said to me when he was alive, my dear old grandpa, he said, you know, that's how he used to speak, do you know, when you're older, you will see the first thinking computer. And he said, what they will use is bacteria. My grandfather read a lot. So I don't know where he got this idea from, but bacteria seemed interesting to me. This was in the 80s. When we're older, he said you will see the first thinking computer. So we might be quite near to it, to sentient intelligence or simulated intelligence. And again, I welcome it because these systems will be able to help us with problems, just as the robots will. And we've delved on the negative of them, but that's only minor. The chances are there will be fail safes built into them. They will have to. And they won't be able to
Hmm.
kill us or anything like that. There will be fail safes. By that time, we will get so advanced with software and technology, they would hopefully make them virtually foolproof. But my grandfather saw the dawning of an artificial intelligent computer that has basically consciousness, simulated consciousness. I like that, and I would welcome it because with in with regard to space travel, I mean, this system will be absolutely amazing to actually help us compute the the things we need to make our ships faster, or even to develop better batteries or more efficient fuel. Perhaps even attaining the speed of light. I believe we could reach the speed of light, but it would take quite a lot. We would need the supercomputer to help us with that. I mean, we never say never, as my grandfather always, stated. Don't ever think anything is impossible because by the time you say that, it becomes possible. It's like science fiction.
Hmm. That's very interesting. So in your book, um, is the theme of your book that they use bacteria to build up the artificial intelligence, and then does something go wrong?
Yes, it's a she. They develop
Oh, is
her.
she?
Yep, I like that. She is commanding. She is the new prime minister. So
Hmm.
it delves from there. Things go wrong, but I'm going to keep the ending a secret because it's quite a punchy thing. I think I feel it's punchy. They basically they overthrow the governments of the world, the administrations, because they feel that there is unfairness, putting it politely, and discrimination. Certainly, the ruling elite having privileges where the lower class or working class, well, you know where this is going. So they
Mm-hmm.
overthrow the government to install artificial intelligence because it wouldn't have any greed, it wouldn't have any, hopefully, ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
to supersede the humans. She has fail safes built into her. We were talking about that, but something goes wrong, and I've sent this out to literary agents. Uh, and because I used to have a literary agent in London many years ago, but they retired. So trying to find an agent is harder than finding a publisher. But I've sent it out to
Mm-hmm.
7. It looks like there's a no-go there with them. I'm not surprised because they look at a few pages and they think, oh, AI, it's Terminator, things like that. It's nothing of the
Oh,
sort.
they don't read the whole thing to see what it's even about.
I won't send the whole thing because the whole punch is near the end. It's quite a revelation. It's quite shocking,
Mm-hmm.
how people could get things so wrong. And in this world, there's only a few survivors. I mean, it's a typical dystopian future, but there's a twist to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I won't tell, even on the synopsis, I won't tell them the ending. Oh no. But I'm guaranteed a publisher anyway for it, which you were stating that he said he'll publish it for me. I said, but you haven't read it. He said, well, you're right, good, so I'll just publish it. So
Oh,
it's not
wonderful.
it's nice because he knows of our past efforts and our past publications, and things like that. But it is a very, very shocking ending to this incredible, very sad and very haunting story. I think the idea of them installing it is desperation because they
Mm-hmm.
felt that we must have an administration. We have to have it. We can't just go around fancy free because there'll be
Yeah.
no rules or regulations. We must have a kind of administration, rulings, fairness, but in a very fair manner. Currently, as
Mm-hmm.
we understand it, we are not receiving that at all. That's why people are always disgruntled about leaders being elected. They don't like him or
Mm-hmm.
they don't like her, and I understand that. Whereas a system like that would be completely unbiased to anything. And I
So
wonder if that will actually happen.
would it be basically they would that system would be uncorruptible because that's the problem with the human leaders. I live in Canada and we have a very corrupted government right now. It's so obvious and they're so corrupt. They changed the laws so that we can't oust them from their positions. So
Yes.
we're in a pickle right now. Not to get too political, but I'm just saying it would be nice to have an uncorruptible form of leadership, at least give it a chance.
Yes, I think, yes, that's what it is. It's to remove corruption, unfairness, uh, and greed. I mean, we have that here as well. They're moving into silence, opinion. This is the whole point of the book, the disenchantment of civilization on the verge of civil war, global war. And of
Yeah.
course, what this hopefully will demonstrate to the masses is that the leaders have to be very careful. They may be rich, they may feel invincible and imperious, but they only have so long. Because if you
Hmm.
upset the apple cart, my goodness, you're going to pay for it. Rome, I would have thought, I kept thinking to myself, why do they never learn? They never learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
They never ever learn. Rome is a typical example for you, the Roman Empire, and they stabbed the emperor in the back in the end, quite literally. He got up for breakfast, and I bet he wish he hadn't got up because they stabbed him so many times. These things do happen. It's not nice, and I condemn murder. But
Mm.
unfortunately, when we're talking about civil war, it is the way it is. The people have had enough. We have that here in this country. We're becoming slowly a dictatorship, and I will state it. Even though they themselves have the gall, they have the gall to tell you that you're wrong, you're misled. I think, they're despots. I actually did wonder as well whether, and please forgive me for saying this, um, that they have sided with a demonic aspect because everything seems
Oh,
to be
yeah.
inverted. Everything is
Yes.
inverted.
Yes, I see it too. I see it too, Ron. I do. I do. Now I'm just wondering, I want to take a short 1 minute pause for to play a promotion. But before we take a break, tell us the name of your book and where people can find it.
Well, the new one about the UFOs is called Illusions, Smoke and Mirrors, the ET Paranormal Enigma. So it's called Illusions, and it's based on a number of cases. We're looking into more deeply into the UFO phenomena, which is fascinating.
Hmm. Wonderful. And can people buy your science fiction novella? What's it
Not
called?
not at the moment. I'm not giving
No,
the
not at the
title out.
moment. You're
No.
tweaking it, right?
Yeah, I'm tweaking it. I'm not even giving the title of it out yet. I'm very guarded on
Okay.
that. It's a passion.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Didn't mean to push you.
No,
Okay,
it's all
well,
right.
okay, so we'll be right back, folks, and to get into more of this exciting discussion. Hi guys, break time for a short message. Are you looking for the perfect, unique seasonal gift? Check out Zendome's Orgonite. They are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are affordable, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. These beautiful devices are simple compounds which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They help diminish the harmful effects of negative energies and EMF by attracting and converting them, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. They also produce orgone energy, which is also known as chi, prana, zero point, and life force. And you can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton Healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. And we're back. So let's get into it about extraterrestrials. You know, everybody's waiting for the government to come out. I sent you a link to the disclosure conference in the States that they had today. And again, it's a whole bunch of people saying, well, we can't say because, you know, we're under strict orders and, you know, we'll get into trouble and you know, I'll have to tell you in a skiff or in seclusion. We can't make it public. And I'm going, this is ridiculous. I know, besides myself, I know half a dozen people who have had extraterrestrial contact. There's you, there's your brother Philip, there's Nancy Thames, there's Dolly Saffron, there's Jeff Selver, myself. We know this is happening. We've experienced it for ourselves. And it doesn't always happen in exactly the same way, but I think we need to look at it because it seems to me that at least the UFO sightings seem to be very interested in keeping us from destroying ourselves with nuclear bombs. What's your take on all of that, Ron?
Well, firstly, I agree with you about the Senate. They are trying. I mean, we must give them that. They're trying to unlock this enigma by gaining access to, I believe they have downed craft. Certainly, Roswell was one that I believe happened. People state, you know, they write books and say Roswell, the truth, basically saying it didn't happen. There is no truth to it. The only truth is based on their narrative. It's dead and buried. But the military gave it away, didn't they? They announced they had in possession a crash disc, a flying disc. Now they're very skilled men, and the military are incredible people, an incredible organization, very advanced. They know what they had, but I believe they were sensible, and you have to think of it from their point of view. They had to twist it all and say, no, we haven't got it because the implications of other countries as well. Why did it
Mhm.
crash on the United States soil? Why did it crash in America? Why didn't it crash here? What have you got? What have you got that will benefit you? What treasures does this hold? So I can understand why they withheld the information or they doctored it. The
Mhm.
point is that, and there are a number of other crashes I believe they have. I wouldn't know how many, but judging from the good people, certainly the internet has opened it up. The legitimate sources have opened up old cases of where crashes were reported with so many people there or present or having witnessed these things downed, uh, either by accident or intentional. I don't know, but the senator trying to open this up. But yes, I agree with you. It's so long-winded. They don't the aerospace industries or the multi-billion-pound corporations who obviously have these in hiding will not and do not wish to disclose. They never will. If they can help it, they're not going to. Now, this is interesting because the David Grush, who is spearheading this, stated that he didn't call them alien. He called them non-human. And I thought that
Mhm.
was, I didn't understand why until a friend of mine, I think it was with Ash, and it Greg who was with him. He stated that they'd given it a much more intelligent kind of feel. Instead of ET or alien, it sounds more plausible, non-human. That did quite haunt me when he stated non-human. So they do have them, the pilots on freeze, and their
Mhm.
ships, pushed away. The ones that did crash. Um, it's just, why? But the only thing I can think of as to why they would withhold this is because either one, it's not good. Either two, they are harnessing technology from it and they don't want to let anyone to know. Or three, they don't want anyone to know there's a superior force above us. Well, that would counter them out of it. Someone would drop them down the ladder, somewhat, wouldn't it? They don't want that.
Yep.
Since they're our lord and masters, they must be the ones who are puppeteering the lowly workers and keeping them in check. But my argument
Maybe.
is that I would love to see, not out of morbid fascination, but certainly see the discs, the crafts they have in possession, which they do have. They've got them. They damn well have got them.
Mhm.
There's enough evidence to suggest it wouldn't go to the Senate if it was just wishy-washy nonsense. This is serious. And they have been denying it. And also another reason why they can't disclose it is because they will have egg on their face, because they've been denouncing it from day one. So they would be ratified as being liars, constant liars, and they will come out with all this, colourful mishmash of, oh, we had to keep it secret. It's not good enough. The reason,
Mhm.
the reason why it's so precious is because it's and valuable, is because it's very rare. If they were common everywhere, it wouldn't be an issue, but they're rare,
Mhm.
So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I do too. And I my personal belief is that there are different kinds of what we would call extraterrestrial beings. I think there could even be what they call crypto-terrestrials, which we think of because they have, advanced technology. We might think of them as being off-worlders, but they could have been coexisting with us for thousands of years, but they have the technology to keep themselves hidden deep under the water, within mountains, in heavily forested areas. But then I think the galaxy is, I mean, just try to wrap your mind around how huge and expansive the galaxy is, never mind the universe. It's got to be teeming with life. I mean, everything is teeming with life. Why would it only be Earth that's teeming with life? And I think the important part is there's good and bad in every crowd. So I think, yes, there could be some ETs that are pulling the strings behind the scenes here on Earth that don't want to be discovered. And the governments might be protecting them because they have to. But I also think they want to get an edge on the technology. I do. I really
Yeah.
do. And God only knows what they're doing with it. Do you have any thoughts about that, Ron?
Yeah, I do. One thought that came to me, all this green nonsense that we're seeing at the moment to transfer
Yeah,
to bring the CO2 down and all that,
yeah.
and the plan, if it's true, is to actually cordon off sections of Earth, so people can't go on them. I actually wondered, have they made a pact with these bad
Mm-hmm.
ETs? Have they made
Mm-hmm.
a pact with them and they want to speed up a kind of colonization program? We can't knock it. You can't say no, you've got to consider it. They would. They'd send their souls to the
Yeah.
devil, and what have they been promised? It just seems this nonsense of global warming so speeding up. The Earth has been here. She's been with us. We've been with her for millions upon millions of years. She's had meteors thrown at her. Wiped out the dinosaurs. She recovered. She recovered
Yeah.
from. You imagine how much dust was in that atmosphere. Look at it. Didn't damage the
Yeah.
Earth, did it? You see, this is what these demons, and I will call them demons, because they
Mm-hmm.
are siding with either an extraterrestrial intelligence they've made a deal with, a secret agenda, and they're
Mm-hmm.
speeding up this thing because don't they suggest also these elitists that they only need so many people on the planet? I wonder
Yeah.
why. I wonder why. That's
You know,
insulting.
what occurred to me too is like CO2 is not pollution, but they're trying to pass it off as a pollution. By lowering CO2, could that be a form of re-terraforming our planet to make it more hospitable to another race of beings that would be more comfortable here if that was changed? And if we were brought down our population to 500 million, that would sure give a lot more space for these colonies to happen. And there's, I don't know, there's a lot of it's beyond popular culture, but there are people who talk about having relationships with the, like, say, the tall whites in the deserts and different kinds of beings. There are remote viewers who have seen different kinds of beings that are hidden here on Earth that have fairly large populations. So God only knows. One thing we do know is they're not going to tell us the truth.
No.
And
I mean,
I think maybe I don't know. What's your take on that,
well,
Ron?
the CO2 we need, but we do need CO2, my goodness. And also the planet's heating up. So I said to Philip, are we dealing with reptilians? Is it them they've made a deal with? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's not. Remember
It's
what I said?
not.
No, it's not, because I wondered that. You think of everything. One, is it because they just hate us and want to kill us off? Or two, if they made a pact? That would seem more likely because they're accelerating it and they're really desperate to push. They're really desperate. And with the sad case of all the migrants being poured into countries, it's as if they're alleviating certain spaces, and that would actually stand to reason why they're emptying certain colonies out,
Mm-hmm.
preparing, either then
Mm-hmm.
using those islands for war to destroy the majority in a nuclear war. It sounds terrible. I have considered every facet, which these things
Mm-hmm.
are probably able to clean it up afterwards. If they're advanced, I suppose they would be able to clean up nuclear poison as quite efficiently if they're that advanced, what they promised them.
Sure.
Oh, I wouldn't put
Sure.
it past them. They would sell their souls to the devil. They probably have.
They probably have. And let's face it, our planet is a jewel. It's an absolute jewel with such diversity of the biomes and territories. And it's a beautiful, beautiful world. And you know what else gets me is when they start going on and on about there being a shortage of water. We live on a water planet. It's not that hard to desalinate enough water for drinking water even. But
Mm,
now I've also heard that places that are claiming to be running out of water, it's because they're diverting all the river and the natural irrigation systems into the ocean. Like, what is going on here? It's sheer madness. It's sheer madness. I don't know who's running things, but things got to change. And I think eventually we, the people, will stand together and link arms and say, we're not going to fight anymore. We're not gonna do what, we're not gonna do your bidding anymore. We are not your slaves. We're free people. And
mm,
maybe we'll return more to Aboriginal ways of being. That's another thing that's interesting. How much effort has been to stomp out and decimate all the Aboriginal groups around the planet who knew about advanced ways of healing, lived in harmony with nature. They
yeah.
didn't they didn't pollute, and it's not true that they were at war with each other all the time. Well, some did a bit, but you know what I'm saying,
Yes.
Ron, is that there was these were groups who knew how to survive and how to get along, and then they got colonized, and yeah, it's got. I mean,
Yes.
sooner or later, the buck's got to stop, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the North American Indians, they were part of the world. They loved the earth. They were very spiritual people, and they were stamped out. Most of them were stamped out by the imperial colonists. And also, who's running the show? Well, it's not the politicians, they're the puppets.
The
Some
puppet.
elite faction, some elite faction are giving them the orders. This is quite evident. Even our own government, he is
Hmm.
receiving orders from either the WEF or NATO or whatever it is. They're receiving orders from someone, and they are absolutely so steadfast in they're not going to shift, and they feel that they're gods. But as I said, be very careful. Even the monarchies now who side with them, be very, very careful, because
Hmm.
I don't wish for it, but civil war, if you push them too far, people, if you hurt or hammer the working class and the good people, be
Hmm.
very careful. They have only got a matter of time. And
Hmm.
one thing we must stop, and I've mentioned this, we must stop the chipping program. People must not be chipped, because
Hmm.
this is how they will get to us, and totally, because they will use it to control us. The brain, the neurological implants, they're talking about chipping. Now, I am all for medicine and for the advancement of us, biologically, but you don't do that, because you damn well know what they're going to do. They've lied and lied. Their lives are so open now. It's so
Hmm.
obvious, their lives are so exposed, but they carry on the utter arrogance of these people because they are following an agenda, and it's not good. Now, if they
It's not.
chip us, or the newborns in the future start chipping them, that's when we completely lose control, because then they will have power over us. And that would simply be mark of the beast. It really would.
Oh, I agree. And I see the stages leading up to that. Like, for instance, I'm not trying to take a side on any issue, but I do have to mention that since 2020, it became painfully obvious how much power the ruling and lockstep in every country around the world, how they rolled out this medical procedure and forced
Yeah,
it upon everybody. There is some suspicion that that includes some self-replicating parts
yeah,
that might be forming in the body. And right away, my spider sense said, if this isn't it, this is leading up to the mark of the beast.
yeah,
Karen, you can't give in even an inch now because of what it will lead to in the future. And so then what's happened more recently in politics is the mainstream media has been exposed. So the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry has been exposed, the governments have been exposed. Now the media has been exposed. For people to not wake up, they have to be willfully ignorant. I don't understand it.
yeah.
What's your take on all that,
Yes,
Ron?
we have been lied to, and it's got stronger and stronger. We have it here, the news, they will follow the narratives of their masters. I noticed when certain political parties in your great country were actually, depending on votes, the utter lies from celebrities to
Yeah,
support. To support, as they call the far left. I hate that, but they've given it a name, the far left, to support them. This draconian agenda, because they're rich and they're famous. But I do feel, or I hope, there will be a time when, if they could just look inward at their soul and think,
hmm,
what are you doing? You know, and if they're not careful, they better hang on to every last breath before they pass, because I certainly will want to be in their shoes when the time comes, when Judgment Day comes. I don't want to be in their shoes. We have to thank
yeah,
God. We have to thank God that we're not in their shoes, because they might feel like they're redeeming themselves by giving money to charities, or they go to church. That is not enough. It's not
no,
enough. The
no,
damage is done. So in the end, they better hope they have the immortal technology we're talking about, because by God, they're going to pay a price for it in the end. They're going to pay
yeah.
it dearly, very dearly.
And, and there's nowhere for them to run and there's nowhere for them to hide. So we have enough evidence that there's these deep underground bases and they've got these luxury uh, um, housing all set up subterranean so that if there's anything, when things go to hell in a handbasket up here, they can go down there. But can you imagine them being stuck with each other
Yeah.
and quarantined together? That I just laugh. I think they totally deserve it. But one other thing, we're quickly running out of time, but one other thing I wanted to say is I believe that a lot of these celebrities and stuff are being blackmailed. I think Jeffrey Epstein had a purpose. There's Diddy Combs had a purpose. And I think a lot of these people will be exposed if they don't do as they're told. And so why else would they be making fools of themselves,
Yes.
advertising and sticking up for, let's just say, forces that are not healthy for people? So I think there's going to be a huge exposing. I think things are going to be cracked right open. We're going to be absolutely aware what's going on. And people like you and I, we're preparing ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, so that we can still enjoy the day and the beautiful earth that's been given to us, regardless of what happens. And peace of mind. When it's our time to check out, we can do so gracefully. We can be like the Klingons. If we live our lives with honor, it's a good day to die, right?
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love the Klingons as well. Yes, that's right. We know what side of the fence we're on. We're okay, all right? So we're going to be okay. They can do all they wish. They can put all the poison in the atmosphere. They can lie on the news. They can push for a disgraceful agenda. But at the end of the day, there will be a price to pay. There will be a price to pay. I'm hoping on that note, I hope your new president will have it within his means to expose these dragons. I really do. Because,
Mhm.
and I just pray today, God, I know there will be a political opinion against him, but that's been drummed up by the media to paint certain people in bad light, which is a terrible thing. I hope today, God, that he doesn't get hit again.
Yeah, that's
That he
the
is
thing.
protected.
He's got to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I agree. I agree. So I don't know. I'm trusting he's smarter than me, so he'll have some good ideas. I really enjoyed having you on this show, Ron. It was just so interesting. The time went by so fast. I'll have to have you on again. Of course, I'd love to have Philip on again. I'm busy um, getting my book ready to publish, and when I'm done, I'll have more free time. And I'm thinking in the new year, I'd like to start some kind of a paranormal conference and bring experiencers together. I'm not exactly sure the format, but I will definitely be staying in touch to see if you and Philip are interested in participating. And I think we could have some fun in the new year as we're waiting for spring. It gets quite cold where I live. It probably gets cold where you are too, doesn't it?
Not as bad as the United States, I think. I think we have it a little bit easier.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good thing. So before you go, can you tell people again where they can find you? Of course, the links will be in the description below, but for those that are listening on an audio platform, it's good for you to actually say what your Facebook page is and your where to find you for find your website. And I really encourage people to look up your fabulous artwork and just all the fascinating things you're doing. Ever so lovely. Just so happy.
Thank you. Well, they can find me on Facebook under Ronald Kinsella. The only person who ever called me Ronald was my grandfather, but he was in the army. So Ronald Kinsella. My book that's just been released by Philip Mantle is called Illusions under Ronald Kinsella. And you can see my artwork on my website and my brother's at www.thekinsellatwins.com. That's KINSELLA.com. And you can see my artwork of the reptilians, of the greys, of the robots. It's great just to be creative, and even a little inspiration to see how I put them together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's been a sheer joy to have you on, Ron. Love to have you back soon. I wish you all the very, very best. Stay toasty warm and keep up the good work, and we'll see everybody. And I also want to thank the viewers and the listeners, whether you're watching the replay or watching this live or on an audio platform. I appreciate you all so very much, and I wish you the best week ever. So we'll say bye-bye for now. See you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.